Joining me now to take a closer look at the president's first year in the White House is Republican Senator Roger Marshall. Senator, thank you so much for joining us. The president's been in office just shy of 1 year, but the poll numbers and the people you talk to on the street, I can't point to a single thing that people are excited about Joe Biden and what he's doing.
Yeah. Good morning, Jason, and Happy New Year to you and your family. But you're right. These numbers show that America is living a nightmare created by the policies from this White House. I just remind people not too long ago, as President Obama said, never underestimate Joe's ability to mess something up. So you just take a scan around the country, around the world at the crisis created by this White House, crisis at the border, a culture of lawlessness across the country, inflation, the price of gasoline, the inability to deal with COVID, national security issues. All these policies are coming to roost right now, and we're all living that nightmare.
Well, let's look further into this poll. As you look at these numbers, as we pull up this graphic here, Senator, I got to tell you, most Americans are showing that they're very, very concerned about so many issues that are facing the country. And the president campaigned on the idea that he had a plan, but I think most Americans, they don't see what this plan supposedly is.
Yeah, Jason. So when you're a socialist, you see every problem as a nail, and the only solution you have is a big sledgehammer. And when you're a socialist, when you're a big government, socialistic government, you see every problem, you try to hit that with a sledgehammer, then there's collateral damage creating 4 more problems. And then you try to take care of those 4 problems and you create 16 more problems. So we see a compounding of errors now. And when you look at these issues, you can't look at them in little silos. There's always overlap. So whether it's COVID, how their mandates impacting the military, how it's impacting your healthcare workers, how it's impacting national security. So we're seeing a compounding of errors right now by this administration.
Right at the top of that list, Senator, is inflation. What should the Senate be doing to tackle inflation? What is the president supposedly going to do to fight inflation? What are the people in your good state of Kansas telling you about the reality of inflation in your state?
Yeah, well, it is actually the biggest issues in Kansas right now are inflation and the mandate. That's the biggest impact, right? And again, the challenges overlap with each other. So number one, we need to get people back to work. We've created artificial supply chain disruption by telling people we're going to pay you more to stay at home than to go back to work. At one point in time, the federal government was paying a family of 4 $108,000 a year to not work. Can you imagine? So we need to get people back to work, and then we need to go back to President Trump's energy policies. The price of gasoline, the cost of your utilities are up significantly over the past year, and all those are results of this president's policies. So those would be 2 simple solutions. Let's get back to energy independence. Let's turn American innovation loose again.
Yeah, things were actually going well. The border was locked down. The economy was zooming, and we didn't have these inflationary, numbers coming at us. But I want to segue here and talk a little bit about the mandates that you mentioned, because you've authored a bill to try to get rid of the mandates that are being imposed on our military. Tell us about that. But I got to tell you, as I go and talk to people across America, some vaccinated, some not, I think they're fed up with these mandates. They just don't think that the federal government should be telling them to get an injection. And if they do or they don't, and they can or cannot go into a restaurant, they think that's a bridge too far.
Yeah, well, certainly we know that mandates have not worked. And just look at the past several weeks. We had over 500,000 people with positive tests 2 days ago. And then just yesterday, I think we were up to almost 500,000 as well. So the mandates don't work. What we did in the NDA, the National Defense Authorization Act, bipartisan legislation, is we know that the White House wants to give our military personnel a dishonorable discharge if they're separated because of their refusal to take the vaccine. I think as an Army doctor myself, former Army doctor myself, I respect religious freedoms. I think that this should be a decision between the Army doctor, the military doctor, their chaplain, and the soldiers as well. So what we did is we are able to slip in some legislation that was approved that would prevent that soldier being separated from getting a dishonorable discharge. Again, I support the vaccine, but I think it should be a personal choice.
Yeah, the idea of self-determination, I think, is about as American as it gets. And look, I'm pro-vaccine. I've got the vaccine. I've gotten the booster. So has my wife. But people get to make these types of decisions for themselves, not the government. It's amazing to me that so-called liberals are so adamant that they have to do this, that the government is going to take control of their bodies. All right, let me go ahead and segue into something else. The reason the Democrats can run the table on many of these things is because they control the House, the Senate, and the presidency. But there are a number of retiring senators out there, most of which are Republicans. If we pull up the graphic here, we've got a number of people that are retiring. Only Senator Leahy on the Democratic side of the aisle. What's the strategy in the Senate to actually wrangle back control and give that gavel back to Mitch McConnell?
Yeah, Jason, well, I'm very bullish that we'll get the majority back in the Senate. And I think we start by just giving the Democrats more rope, right? Just America is looking at their policies. So I'm very, very optimistic. And I'm optimistic at the polls I'm seeing. You look at generic ballots right now, and what we're seeing is in purple states is people have shifted over in these generic ballots to supporting Republicans for the first time in my career. We've never been above a -6 since I've been on Capitol Hill for 5 years right now. So to be shifting to the positive realm in purple states, with educated women, with independents. So those are all huge, huge victories for us. In those retirement seats you've got up there, I think that we can jot down Missouri as a victory, Alabama as a victory. I think we're going to be okay in North Carolina. I think we're really solid in Ohio. We've got some work to do in Pennsylvania, but we're going to go on the offense. Rick Scott is doing a heck of a job running the NRSC, the National Republican Senate Committee. He has a strategy reaching out to those independent voters, to Hispanic voters, reaching out, growing the party. The Democrat Party has left traditional Republicans and as well as the Democrats. So I think that we have a great opportunity here to pick up seats in Arizona as well as Georgia, and there'll be a couple jokers that we'll pull out of the hand as well.
Oh, I can name some jokers on the list that should be defeated. That's for sure, Senator. All right, real quickly, I've only got about 30 seconds left. What do you see are the top tier issues going into the election, the major drivers by the time we get to the end of 2022?
Yeah, well, I think it remains COVID and the economy, right? If we get the economy right, everything else falls into place. That as opposed to a one-size-fits-all sledgehammer approach by the federal government, I think that Americans are going to see that that approach doesn't work. Let's turn it back to the states, to local communities to solve their own problems and get the economy going again.
Amen to that. Senator Roger Marshall, thank you so much. Happy New Year, and thank you for joining us on Sunday Morning Futures.
Thanks, Jason.